Welcome to the official Barclays Premier League podcast, brought to you by Barclays.
Hello, I'm Dave Farah, and welcome to you wherever you are in the world for another episode of the official Barclays Premier League podcast. This week I'm joined by two special guests, former Republic of Ireland international Matt Holland and ex-West Ham, QPR and Southampton striker Ian Dowie. Together we'll be looking ahead to what's sure to be a dramatic last 12 games of the season, as well as reviewing an entertaining match at Anfield, where Liverpool found their scoring touch to comfortably see off Swansea.
Big applause to the players because their attitude was fantastic throughout the game. We scored 5 goals and I think it was 35 shots against obviously a Swansea team and players that I know very well.
We'll hear more from Brendan Rodgers after victory over his old employers, plus we speak exclusively to Liverpool and England fullback Glenn Johnson. Former Spurs winger Chris Waddle joins us to discuss Gareth Bale's scintillating recent form, plus we talk to a Wigan fan about their chances of another great escape. Hello and welcome back to the official Barclays Premier League podcast. Welcome to Matt and Ian as well. Gentlemen, just the one Barclays Premier League fixture at the weekend due to the FA Cup 5th round. Ian, which cup shock, if indeed there was one, stood out for you? I think there's probably one that stands out more than the others.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Oldham's fight back, the whole performance by Oldham during the game was very impressive. You know, they limited a very strong Everton side to a few chances, and a draw was a minimum they deserved. In fact, Everton were hanging on for the last 10 minutes, and Big Matt Smith comes off the bench and powers in a header. I mean, I don't know what Buzanes, the keeper, was doing with his hands, but it's correct, the goal stood, and they will love the fact they're going back for a big money-spinning tie at Goodison Park.
Yeah, strangely, when I was talking about the big shock that stood out, Matt, that wasn't the one I meant.
No, I think you meant Blackburn beating Arsenal, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely. I think since Michael Appleton's gone in at Blackburn, he's made them more defensively aware. They've been better at the back, but Arsenal knocked at the door. I mean, it was pretty much one-way traffic. It was like the Alamo at times, and they paid the price. One counter-attack, and they lost the game. A big defeat for Arsene Wenger. I think the first time he's lost at home to lower league opposition, and in his time at Arsenal. So to lose to Blackburn and Bradford in this season's cup competitions will be a massive blow for them.
Well, let's begin by looking at the one Barclays Premier League fixture that took place this weekend. It was an entertaining one, with Liverpool running out comfortable 5-0 winners against a weakened Swansea City side at Anfield. It was Brendan Rodgers up against his old club, Matt, and it couldn't have been more straightforward. Swansea didn't play the strongest team, did they?
No, they didn't. I already mentioned Arsenal against Blackburn being like the Alamo, and this was similar, to be honest. It was one-way traffic. I thought Suarez and Sturridge were absolutely outstanding. Yes, Swansea made changes, but he's done that previously, Michael Laudrup, and it hasn't affected too much the team. But on this occasion, it certainly did. They weren't at the races. He admitted as much afterwards. But really, you have to give credit to Liverpool and the way they performed. Coutinho coming in for his debut as well, and Sturridge and Suarez, I've already mentioned, they were exceptional going forward.
Well, let's hear from the Liverpool boss now, who was pleased to see his team get back to winning ways.
Well, it was a brilliant performance and big applause to the players because their attitude was fantastic throughout the game. It was important for us today for a clean sheet, believe it or not, even though we scored 5 goals and I think it was 35 shots. Our main focus going into the game was about being defensively solid and compact against obviously a Swansea team and players that I know very well. So it's all round fantastic performance and a good 3 points for us.
Well, to talk a bit more about Sunday's dominant performance as well as Liverpool's hopes for the rest of the season, I'm delighted to say we're joined on the line now by their England right back Glenn Johnson. Thanks for joining us, Glenn.
No problem, you're welcome.
Now, first of all, what a performance on Sunday. It must have been enjoyable, and has that been coming?
Well, of course, you know, any game of football that you win's enjoyable, but I think in the manner that we did it, it had that extra bit of spice and to come off the back of 2 quite bad results for our standards. Yeah, it was great to get a few goals, and like Brendan's mentioned before, it's to get another clean sheet and try and get another run going.
It's also free-flowing football, you know, it's very entertaining stuff, but 5 different goal scorers as well, which is always a sign, isn't it, that a team's playing well?
Yeah, that's right. We're certainly not a one-man team, and we've clearly got threats from all sides and positions on the pitch, so it must be worrying for certain teams.
Glenn, Ian here. I was just wondering whether you could give us an insight into Brendan Rodgers. How tactically has he changed your personal role when he plays in the team? What differences has he made to you and what you do during the game?
The most obvious for me really would be when we're building up for me to start in a very high position. Usually as fullbacks in the past used to be next to the centre halves and almost getting involved in the build-up play, but Brendan kind of wants us as fullbacks to push over the halfway line at times and let the centre halves and the holding midfielder and the goalkeeper, you know, start the build-up. So then obviously when you get the ball, you're in a much more dangerous position.
And Glenn, Daniel Sturridge and Luis Suarez outstanding once again. Everyone's talking about their developing partnership. Is that something you can see in training, the partnership that's developing between the two of them?
Yeah, you can. They're two fantastic players, and it doesn't take good players to adapt along to their teammates and the style of play. So I think every game they play together, they're looking even sharper and better.
Glenn, Matt Holland here. Do you feel as though you're on track this season? I mean, at the start of the year, what were your targets, and are you close to achieving them this season?
At the start of most seasons, the objective is to get into the top four. There's obviously a big gap from where we are now to the fourth place, but we'll keep fighting until mathematically that it's over. Obviously, we've still got a chance, so as long as we can put a run together and play the way we know we can, I'm sure we're going to be very close.
Just wanted to ask you about Coutinho, first goal for the club on his full debut, Glenn. Very good technically, isn't he, Coutinho? I mean, impressed by him?
Yeah, he looks brilliant. He's been very sharp, and you can see him in training. He's willing to work hard, and he's running around all over the place. And like I say, you can see when he gets in one-on-one positions, he's going to cause a lot of problems. So it's great for him to get a goal so early. So hopefully he knocks in a few more.
And just finally, big win, of course, over Swansea in terms of the scoreline, and maybe give you momentum too for what looked like a decent set of games for you. Some tricky away trips, Wigan, Southampton and Villa, but home game against Spurs, home game against West Ham. Is this a big chance now, 5-0 win, and you can move onwards and upwards up that table?
Yeah, it was a great performance and good 3 points against Swansea, and again another clean sheet. So if that can be the foundations to start another long, successful run, then again, like I said before, then I'm sure we're going to be very close to fourth place.
Glenn, thanks very much indeed for your time, mate. Much appreciated.
No problem. Thank you.
Cheers, pal. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate.
Well, as good as Liverpool were, Swansea were equally as bad, with manager Michael Laudrup making 7 changes from the team that beat QPR 4-1. Here's a very apologetic Swans manager.
It was a nightmare. We got slaughtered in there. First half, we were still in the game, but when you give away 3 goals like that in just 10 minutes, it was awful. We just have to say sorry to the fans who have been travelled, and I'm the one responsible because I picked the team. Only in a couple of positions I wanted to leave them out. Obviously, Michu, and after the injury of Chico as well, Ashley. But that's not an excuse. We made 4, 5, 6 or 7 changes in the last 2 or 3 months and still being competitive. Today, nothing at all. We could have lost 10-0.
Ian, what do you make of that? You were slightly surprised by that reaction, weren't you?
I'm a great admirer of Michael Laudrup. I think he calls it. And what I loved about the fact that he took full responsibility for it. He said, I'm the manager, I picked the team. He wouldn't have seen that coming. I mean, in the previous 13 away games, only 10 goals, and they conceded 5 in one, and could have been more. So I think it's a wake-up call for the other players. I think beneath that he'll be absolutely burning with anger about the defensive display, which was just so un-Swansea-like. And Matt will know very well. It just shows you when you're not used to game readiness, and Gary Monk's an excellent player, and Bartley, but they're not used to playing, and they got exposed by the movement. They looked all at sea. There was no cohesion between the back four, and as a result, they could have lost by more. But it's a real wake-up call for the depth of the squad at Swansea.
And Matt, top scorer Michu was on the bench. Just to let people know what the changes were, Ashley Williams, Angel Rangel, Wayne Routledge, Nathan Dyer were all on the bench. I mean, is it a sensible thing to do with the League Cup final coming up? He'll be criticised, but from a professional's point of view, was he right?
In my view, he was absolutely spot on to make the changes. I think the previous week he'd lost Chico Flores to injury. He couldn't afford really another centre-half, certainly his main centre-half, in Ashley Williams to go down injured. Michu, of course, has been exceptional this season. Swansea aren't going to be remembered this season by finishing 7th in the Barclays Premier League. They're going to be remembered by winning a trophy, and they've got a great opportunity against Bradford to do that. If they win a trophy, then their name is forever remembered. So for me, I think he did the right thing. He's done it before. He did it against Fulham prior to the Chelsea game in the semi-final, made 5 or 6 changes. They went and won at Fulham 2-1. So he put a team out that he felt would be able to compete. They didn't on the day, and they got absolutely thrashed by Liverpool. But I think he did the right thing in making the changes in preparation for the weekend's cup final.
We're just over 2/3 of the way through the season, so let's spend the rest of the show looking at what's to play for at both the top and bottom of the Barclays Premier League, with just 12 games remaining. Let's start at the top, which potentially is the easy bit, I suppose. Manchester United 12 points clear of Manchester City with 12 games remaining. Put briefly, Matt, can United be caught?
You wouldn't think so, but last season they had an 8-point lead with 6 games to go and were caught, which I think surprised a lot of people. But I've got to say, with the fixture list that I see from both teams, I just feel as though United will have comfortably enough to win the league.
Well, let's hear from the United manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, who's been pleased with his team's recent performances.
It's been a good season for us so far. I think that their form's been good. They're healthy leading the league. I think that's helped us. I can't be more pleased than I am at the moment with the form and the spirit in the place. It's good.
Yeah, United have hit form at just the right time. 7 wins in their last 8. City, no win in 3. Ian, could the Champions League distract United from the Barclays Premier League? City have only got the league and the FA Cup to concentrate on, but then again, United may not be in the Champions League for long. Who knows?
No, that may be the case. But I just sense that league burns in Sir Alex. You can see the team he picks prior to that, changes round, knows that he can take advantage. And you look at the next four, if he takes care of the next four, and they're all very winnable for United, it will definitely be a bridge too far for Man City. But could it be? Yes, it could. If they do get knocked out, and I hope they don't, I think it's a death knell for anyone else in the title race for sure.
Yeah, United's upcoming fixtures: QPR away, Norwich home, West Ham away, and Reading at home. Interesting from a striking point of view, Matt. Aguero, Tevez and Dzeko, 28 goals between them. RVP, Rooney, Hernandez, 37 goals between them. Ultimately, defending's important, but goals win you titles, which is why they get the big bucks.
This time last year, Sir Alex Ferguson was saying that he's never going to lose a title on goal difference again. So he went out and bought someone who was going to guarantee him goals in Robin van Persie. Last season he was absolutely exceptional, top scorer in the division. City themselves wanted him. There was a fight for him. United won that battle, and it's proved a masterstroke by Sir Alex Ferguson because he has been exceptional. He bought him to make the difference in big games, and that's exactly what he's done this season. He scored the winner at the Etihad. He's just, I think, a fantastic all-round player. His all-round game actually has impressed me more this season than I've seen in previous years. He alone really has been the massive difference in the two sides.
Well, City manager Roberto Mancini was pleased to return to winning ways in the FA Cup of the weekend, having been comprehensively beaten at St Mary's last time out in the league.
I'm happy because it was important to win after Southampton, and FA Cup is difficult. I hope that Sergio will be like this from now to the end, because if Sergio will be like this and our striker continue to score a lot of goals from now to the end, I think that the championship is not finished.
Yeah, that FA Cup win, by the way, was against Leeds United. Aguero was sensational with 2 goals. Chelsea at home, Villa away, Wigan at home and Everton away are City's upcoming fixtures. And just in case you're interested, and I'm sure you are, the Manchester derbies at Old Trafford on Monday, the 8th of April. Now, race for Champions League places. Below the top 2, this does get fascinating. 4 clubs battling it out for the coveted 3rd and 4th Champions League places. Leading the quartet are Chelsea, who sit in 3rd place on 49 points. You've watched them a lot recently, Matt, haven't you? They've stuttered just a little in recent weeks, especially at Stamford Bridge, but 3 wins in a week in the Barclays Premier League, Europa League and FA Cup. Has that stopped the rot, or is that just a sort of bit of gloss on something that's not maybe quite as good as it looks?
No, I mean, it has stopped the rot. They have been less than convincing when I've seen them play. You worry up top. Fernando Torres, you're worried that he's ever going to get back to the heights that he's reached in previous years. Demba Ba I saw at the weekend in the FA Cup, and he disappointed me. They've got some magical talents. Juan Mata, I think, has been exceptional this year and will be in the running for Player of the Season. I think he's been absolutely top draw. Talk of a bit of a discontent between the manager and captain, John Terry. Still the Lampard situation hanging over them. Will they offer him a new contract? Will they not offer him a new contract? I can't believe they haven't done as yet. It's not all rosy at Stamford Bridge, but certainly recent results will have improved their mood. I think the supporters just have to accept that Rafa Benitez is there till the end of the season and get on with it, despite the fact that they don't want him in charge.
Do you go along with that, Ian? I mean, he looks like he's probably going to last to the end of the season now, but it's an odd situation, isn't it? I mean, I think everyone knows that he's not going to be manager next season.
Oh, I feel a little bit sorry for him because he's clearly a manager who knows his way around the football club and done some very good things in the past. And I think they will be very well organised. But as Matt said, there's one or two strange situations, even that, the change in the team for QPR. I think that will haunt him, that, because, you go on a run of results, you can change people's perceptions very quickly. I agree with Matt. I think John Terry is very, very important for the stability defensively, which they haven't shown at all. John will know that he's coming to the later stages of his career. But in Frank Lampard, I think the Frank Lampard situation will act in their benefit, because I think Frank's thinking, I'm going to become the greatest ever goal scorer this club's had, and then I'll do what I'll do. I sense that even Frank may get to a situation where he'll say, thanks very much, I'm now the record goal, so I'll move on. I don't think he wants to, but I think the longer it goes on, the more he's likely thinking that way. And who would blame him? Again, at the weekend, he had chance after chance in the FA Cup, and yet still pops up with a goal. In my day, when I played, I had a couple of chances, and if I missed them, I never got another one. He just finds that way, and clearly he's a magnificent player. But I do also think there is a little disconnect with Rafa Benitez because of the way the fans are about him.
You never missed many, though, did you?
Never got many.
Now, just a point behind Chelsea in 4th are Spurs, who are currently unbeaten in 10 league games under the guidance of former Blues manager Andre Villas-Boas, and one of the main reasons for their recent success has been the form of Gareth Bale. Let's hear from the Welsh winger who in all competitions has now scored 7 goals in his last 5 games.
I'd probably say it's the best I've been playing so far in my career. I'm enjoying my football and the team's playing well, which obviously makes it easier for me. So I just got to keep my head down now, keep working hard, and just keep trying to keep my form. I'm just concentrating on every game as it comes so far, and just hoping I can keep my form going.
Well, to discuss Spurs and Gareth Bale's great recent form, I'm joined on the line by another of their former wide men, Chris Waddle. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Thank you.
Now, before we discuss the race for the top 4, just a word about the man we've just heard there, Gareth Bale. 13 league goals, and he's pretty much single-handedly won Tottenham's last 3 league games. I mean, how good is he? How good can he be?
I think he's bang on form. I think there's more to come. Deep down, he probably thinks he can be going at a level, a bit more consistency. I know he's been scoring some wonderful goals and he's had some wonderful performances. But he admitted against Lyon, he didn't really play well. He had 2 goals, 2 free kicks, but didn't really get in the game as much as he wanted. So there is still obviously more to come. But you've got to say that he has carried Tottenham over the last month or so, and he's in terrific form. He's pacey, he's got a trick, he's got a great delivery. We know what he's got. Power on his left foot. I think he's worked on his right foot as well. It's getting better, and he really is on top of his game at the moment.
Do you think he's going to end up being a centre forward, and that's going to be his best position?
No, I don't. I think when you've got a player with that much ability, he can start wide, left or right. You can't say to him, go off the leash. Sometimes when you play a winger down the middle, they make runs which probably centre forwards don't normally make, which can confuse defenders. I think it was Jack Charlton who said it years ago, and he put me up front from a winger at Newcastle, and he said sometimes they run in areas and the forwards don't normally run, but once they start thinking of a centre forward, it becomes a problem. So I think Gareth's capable of playing most positions, but I do think that he does have licence to wander inside, but I still think he's at his best when he's sort of that left side, inside left position.
Well, 3 of his last 4 goals, Chris, have been stunning free kicks, as you know, and Bale himself has put it down to extra training and practice. You had an eye for a pretty good free kick in your day. Is that a case of practice makes perfect?
Yeah, you've got to practice. Listen, every job, whatever you do in the world, you've got to work at it. And it just shows the quality of the lad, because he's got natural ability, but he wants to improve. His game's going very well, and he must think that power he's got in the left foot, he must be thinking he should be scoring more goals from dead balls. And he's obviously gone on the training ground and he's worked at it. It doesn't just happen. Where David Beckham and whoever, all the players who are very good at dead balls, they work very, very hard at it, and it didn't just happen. And that's a lesson, obviously, for a lot of young players. You've got to really work at it. And listen, he's got the talent. You can't just say to every player, put the ball down, he can all do this. He has got natural ability, which helps his cause.
On to Tottenham's top 4 ambitions, Chris. They're 4th after 26 games, a point behind Chelsea, 4 points ahead of Arsenal. They've got to be the favourites now, haven't they, for Champions League spot? And who knows, potentially 3rd.
Yeah, they've obviously got to keep going. I think you said at the start, Gareth Bale's been getting, 7 goals in 5 games. So you need the other players. I know Defoe might be back in a week or so, and Adebayo has really got to come to the front a bit. He hasn't really done it since he came back to Spurs off last season. And, they need to chip in with more goals from other players. You can't rely on one player. They've got some hard fixtures coming up. We know that over the next month. It's going to be a good test. They're still obviously in the Europa League at the minute. So they've got a lot to play for. And yes, you'd say they're in the driving seat because the teams around them have not been very consistent, which has helped them. They are chasing down Chelsea, which is, again, good for them. If they can nick into 3rd, it's very helpful for them. Listen, they've got a very good squad, Tottenham. When you look at it on paper, they've got terrific players, and there's no reason why they can't get 4th. And I think as a club in general, they'll be disappointed if they don't get it.
And just a final question, Chris, on one of your old clubs, Newcastle, 5th from bottom. But do you think the new additions in January, are they safe now, do you think, in terms of relegation?
I wouldn't say they were safe. I've seen Newcastle play quite a bit. They're still a little bit vulnerable at the back. Obviously, they've got to get the balance right. New players coming in, learning that the French league's different. They have got, obviously, players who are very capable of helping the team to get out that position. But I just think people like Cisse and that last year couldn't miss, and this year they're not going in. I watched them last week in the Europa League, and he could have had a hat-trick or maybe 4, and they're just not going in for him at the minute. And I think if he can get his shooting boots on, I think they will be very safe. But at the minute, scoring goals is a bit of a problem for them.
Chris, thanks very much indeed for your time.
Thanks, Dave.
That was Chris Waddle. Just a word from you guys. I mean, how far, Ian, are Spurs behind the Manchester clubs, do you think?
Not that far. The other issue I don't think people are addressing, and everyone talks rightly so about Gareth Bale, who's a force of nature in terms of what attributes he has, is their defensive solidity. Lloris has come in and I thought wrongly replaced Brad Friedel, but he's justified his selection. Kolka, Vertonghen, Dawson's been outstanding. Walker, I think, is becoming a rival for Glenn Johnson as the best right back in England. That, I think, is a huge difference. I think they do look defensively very sound.
The big difference for me for Spurs and how close they are to the top teams in terms of Man United and Man City is the strikers. When you look at United strikers and the options they've got up front, and look at Spurs, Defoe's out injured, Adebayor's been away at the African Cup of Nations, he's come back not perhaps in the best of form. They've had to play Dempsey up top, so a lack of strikers has been the biggest problem, I think, for Tottenham.
Well, there's now a 4-point gap between Spurs in 4th and their North London rivals Arsenal in 5th. Let's hear from the Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger. You might want to listen carefully to this, who's clearly feeling the pressure after Saturday's shock FA Cup defeat to Blackburn.
Look, I've been accused of not taking seriously the FA Cup. I won 4 times the FA Cup. Who has won it more? Give me one name. The second thing is we been accused of not putting a strong team out. I think that's an insult to the players who started the game because we had 11 international football players on the pitch. We didn't lose the game with the players who started. We lost the game in the last 10-20 minutes. There's a wrong of superficial analysis that cannot accept. We accept that we have to take the blame because we went out, but for the rest, you have as well to put things into perspective. And when you analyze or give opinions about things, you have to analyze it really and not superficially. And because one guy says something, everybody goes the same way.
And so it went, Ian. Does he have a point, or is that a man on the brink? What do you think?
Unashamed admirer of Arsene Wenger. I do think that his squad as a whole is probably not where I think it should be in terms of physicality, in terms of aggression, in terms of size at times. But he's gone through the hardest time in their history in terms of financially. They're where they are because of what he's done. Is there anyone been any better in the development of players? I suggest not, in recent times. So my view is, and I think Jupp Heynckes puts it very well from Bayern Munich, they've sold players and yet they're still in the shake-up. A lot of other teams would never have done that. The teams above them have all brought in players. Arsenal, they're a selling club at the moment. And as a result, he's done a fantastic job keeping them in the shake-up. But it's getting to an acid test now.
Do you go along with that opinion of Arsenal, Matt?
I think they haven't been able to compete in terms of wages. That's been the biggest problem. Got this socialist wage structure which they have in place where everyone's within a certain amount of each other. And I think that's been a massive issue. So therefore they've lost players. It's not like he hasn't spent money either. He's bought players ready to come into the team as well. Arteta, Mertesacker, Monreal recently at left back as well. So it's not like he hasn't had money at the football club. I think he'll still be there next year because his contract is for next year. So I think that we'll certainly see him until the end of next season. But I think he is cutting a more and more frustrated figure. And whether he goes beyond next season, I'm not totally convinced.
The 4th team in the hunt for the top 4 are Everton, who currently sit in 6th spot, 6 points behind Spurs. And, well, goal scoring is an issue for Everton, but the big stat is 12 draws in 26 matches, Matt. Simple as that, isn't it?
Tough to beat. I think that's pretty much what Everton are. I think they've lost less games than the teams in and around them. Arsenal, Spurs, and Chelsea. I think they've only lost 4 in the Barclays Premier League all season. They've struggled up front a little bit this year. Jelavic has been out of form and Ichibi's come into the team in his place. I think, again, that's been the biggest worry for Everton, really, that they haven't been able to put the ball in the back of the net because defensively they have been very good.
And the upcoming fixtures for Everton: Norwich away, Reading home, Arsenal away, Man City at home. You're listening to the official Barclays Premier League podcast with myself, Dave Farrett, alongside Ian Dowie and Matt Holland. Now, if you're wondering what the answer was to last week's trivia teaser, here it is. Robin van Persie has now scored 19 league goals for Manchester United this season. 5 players have hit 20 goals or more in a Barclays Premier League season for United. So that's since 92-93. Surprising, isn't it, that it's only 5? Can you name them? And the clue, 2 of those 5 players had done it more than once. And the answer was Ruud van Nistelrooy 4 times, Wayne Rooney twice, Cristiano Ronaldo, Dwight York, and maybe the tricky one, Dimitar Berbatov. Time now for this week's trivia teaser. 15 years ago, Stoke striker Michael Owen scored his first of 8 Barclays Premier League hat-tricks in his career so far in a 3-3 draw at Sheffield Wednesday. Can you name the 3 other players to have scored 8 or more hat-tricks in the Barclays Premier League? The 3 other players to have scored 8 or more hat-tricks in the Barclays Premier League. As always, if you think you know the answer, log on to the Barclays Football Facebook page, tell us what you think, and we'll read out the correct answers in next week's programme. We can turn our attention now to the bottom of the table and what's proving to be a fascinating fight for survival with as many as 10 clubs potentially involved. We'll start, though, guys, with the bottom 4, separated by 7 points. QPR prop up the rest. They're 7 points from safety with just 12 games left. Ian, I have to ask you first, has your old club had it?
Not quite. I do sense that the games coming up, I'm talking about the next 3, unless they get a points return, the goal return is what's going to hurt them. And he can do what he likes in terms of strengthening the squad, and I think he has. But he's brought in a lad who doesn't look in shape, Samba. On a small pitch at QPR at home, it's easier. When he got away, against the bigger pitch at Swansea, he looked a bit out of shape. But the goals are going to kill them. They don't look like they can win games because they haven't got a natural goal scorer. I mean, Remy may be back this weekend. I sense they might even need to beat Man United this weekend. A draw's just not good enough. Points at the top and the bottom kill you in relegation and title run-ins, that's for sure.
One area in which, as you say, they're particularly struggling is up front. Manager Harry Redknapp admits that Bobby Zamora's injury problems are really affecting the team.
He holds the ball, brings people into play, doesn't give the ball away. He's a target. When he doesn't play, we haven't got that. We haven't got anybody who's a focal point to our play, who you can play up to and holds the ball. It's difficult. He seizes up at half-time. It's a problem. He plays 45 minutes and then can't walk again. The only way it's going to clear up is to have another operation which could keep him out for 6 to 8 months. So it's not an option at the moment.
Well, Matt, for example, if QPR lose to Manchester United and Villa win at the weekend, it's 10 points, potentially from safety. And do you see any way back for them?
I know Ian was being very diplomatic because he's obviously a former QPR man, but I've got to say I don't see a way out of it for them. The fact is that 26 games in, they've won 2. In the last 12, they've got to win at least 5 to try and stay up. And I just don't see where those 5 wins are going to come from.
Well, a place and 4 points above Queen's Park Rangers are Wigan, who once again find themselves in a relegation battle with a third of the season remaining. Here's their manager, Roberto Martinez.
At this moment of the season, you need to look internally and you need to look at everyone in the team. And it's important that we got players back from injury. That's what we need to do. Be as good as we can be for the next 12 games. And as a football club, we're always ready. We know what we have to do. We know our expectations. And as a football club, we're ready to take that challenge head on and as a whole.
To talk a bit more about the Latics' recent poor form and habit, indeed, of escaping the dreaded drop, we're joined on the line by Jason Taylor, who's the head of media at Wigan Athletic Supporters Club. Hi, Jason.
Hi there, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. We just heard there from Roberto Martinez, who says the team know what they have to do at this stage of the season. The fans, I guess, do as well. This is a very familiar situation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's too familiar, isn't it? Probably nice to be, safe and secure by now, but yeah, last few seasons, we always seem to be leaving it to the last minute.
Well, why do you only start playing so well so late in the season, do you think?
We have a very, very small squad, is all I can put it down to. When we get injuries and suspensions, it hits us hard. We have a team that we want to start off with, and when that gets disrupted, which is usually the first half of the season for some reason, that's when we don't perform, and then we're playing catch-up for the last quarter of the season.
The Cuntal win over Huddersfield takes you to your first FA Cup quarter-final in 26 years. That's obviously fun as a fan, but is it a worry as well in terms of taking you away from the league?
I don't think so. I mean, when you see your football club not winning very much, any win gets the supporters up and gets them more behind the team as well.
Interesting psychology, I thought. It's been a much publicised story, but about Callum McManaman. Martinez knows he's a worrier. He told him he wasn't playing in the game against Huddersfield, so he'd be able to sleep, and then only told him he was playing just before the game. He's a good psychologist, your boss, isn't he?
He needs to be, doesn't he? He does seem to know how to get the team playing when the backs are against the wall. So we only found out about that after the game, actually. What a ploy that was, because he was by far and above the best player on the park at Huddersfield.
Sounds like he only found out after the game as well. Next up in the league is Reading away. A huge game, of course, for both clubs. Do you fancy yourselves away at the Medeski?
We don't have a good record there, but on our day, I fancy us against anybody. Unfortunately, because of the injuries that we've had early on in the season, we've not had many chances to shine, but everybody seems to be coming back at the right time. So hopefully, if we play like we did this weekend, we should be all right. We keep saying this every year, don't we?
Well, we wish you luck, Jason. Thanks very much indeed for your time.
Okay, thanks.
Making up the bottom 3 are Reading, who after a good recent run are now just 1 point from safety. Have you been surprised, Matt, by Reading's recent revival? I know a lot of their fans have been.
No, not really. And the reason being because they have got goals in them. We've talked a lot about teams at the bottom and who are lacking goal scorers and they're not scoring enough. And yet I look at Reading and think every game you feel as though they're going to get on the score sheet. Lafondra off the bench has been exceptional. Player of the month for January. Noel Hunt, Pogrebniak out wide. You've got Robson Kanu, Kebe, McAnuff. You've got options and players who are capable of getting on the score sheet. So in that respect, I haven't been too surprised. And I think that the signing of Kelly at right back as well has made a difference to them.
Upcoming fixtures, key ones. Wigan at home, as we said, then Everton away. Villa at home is a huge game, and Man United away for Reading. Just a point and a place above Reading are Aston Villa, who recorded a crucial first league victory in 9 last time out against West Ham to move into the temporary safety of 17th spot. Paul Lambert has said his team have to be prepared for 12 cup finals. You two have both been involved in relegation battles. Ian, it's the cliche, isn't it? But is that how the games feel?
Yeah, they do. Who holds your nerve? Who can still be brave enough to get on the ball in tight situations? I'm also a great believer in who can yes, goals are very important, but who defends well? You know, I really think that's important too. And that's where, you know, Villa, they'll have some worries. There's no doubt that they've got, you know, ability going forward. It's whether or not defensively they can be solid. And set pieces have been a huge concern for Villa. Something I think Paul Lambert needs to address, and that's hours on the training ground. They need to shore that up. Otherwise, it's going to be a difficult task. And look at their games coming up. Wow. I mean, the Reading away and the QPR at home, if they were to win them, I think that gives them great opportunity. And I think it will come down to that. Looking at the games coming in, Villa have got a tough run.
Yeah, Arsenal away, Man City home, then it's the Reading away game, QPR at home. One player the manager, Paul Lambert, knows is crucial to Villa's survival is top scorer Christian Benteke.
People are probably saying, who is he, or why go for somebody from Genk? And so all of a sudden the guy does what he does. Now he's a cult hero. He's only 22. He's got years and years and years ahead of him. He might not hit his peak until he's 30. You just don't know. But what he's done for me and for the club, he's been unbelievable. If somebody wanted to buy Christian, then you better have a few quid in your pocket to buy him. He ain't going to just walk out of here for the value he came from, that's for sure. I think he's loving his football at the minute. He's a cracking big guy, he's really humble, and if he keeps that, he could be, like I said before, he could be anything he wanted to.
Yeah, he's your position, Ian, and arguably the best centre-forward of his type in the Barclays Premier League. Old-style English centre-forward.
Yeah, I mean, Barr, before his injury, was probably the best of that type. But Benteke possesses, I think, a lot more than people give him credit for early on. He's developed his game. He looks like he's worked hard on it. His link-up play has improved markedly. I think he's unmarkable at times when he heads the ball. And he's blessed with two things. One, he's got great ability in his right foot, but he's got blistering pace. Clearly, I know something about. He clearly has got lots of pace, and that makes a difference. And I really do think that it's that important. If they stay up, it will be because of him. I really believe that.
3 points above Villa on 27 sit Southampton and Newcastle. Both teams registering good recent results to move them away from immediate danger. We can hear now from a delighted Southampton manager, Maurizio Pochettino, after that deserved win over the champions last week. And of course, he needs a little help from a translator.
Muy contento por el equipo, por los jugadores.
Yes, I'm very happy for the team and for the players who deserve the victory. I'm very happy for all the people who work with Southampton. And for all the people here at St Mary's today, it's been an incredible day.
Ha sido un día increíble.
So there you go, Matt. Nigel who?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously under him have played this high pressing game, playing the opposition half, close people down, don't allow them any time on the ball in defensive areas. I also think that Ricky Lambert up top is an exceptional footballer. I think throughout his career, he's scored goals. I think this year he looks fitter than I've seen him in previous seasons. He's relishing his time in the top flight, and I think he's a real candidate for getting into an England squad in the next few matches. So he's made a massive difference. But yeah, I think that the high-pressing game that he's brought to the football club has made a difference.
And Ian, a word on Newcastle, a club, of course, that you've been involved with in the past. 2 wins in 3. The French recruits have probably done it, haven't they? I mean, Mike Ashley's taken a gamble, really, to spend the money, to get the money next season, if you like, and it looks like it's working.
He's also speculated to accumulate. He knows he's got some value in the team. Certainly Sissoko will be value. By the time you look at the agent's fee, still be fine. I just don't see them being in it. And don't forget, they've got their best player to come back yet, and that's Ben Arthur. When he comes back, and I think he'll play on that left side, maybe even ahead of Gouffran, I think it's another game changer. You know, he's an outstanding talent. And they've got far too much quality to be where they are.
Hatem Ben Arthur's Newcastle's best player, not Johan Cabaye.
Both of them are very good, but I think Ben Arthur, I'm talking about to change a game, yes. But I know what you mean. I think Cabaye's been magnificent. But why shouldn't he be? I mean, 4.5 million, it was a no-brainer from League and Cup double with Lille. It was cheap as chips for the quality of the player. And I'm not sure there's too many better midfield players than him in the top flight.
Yeah, and he could end up being, one of the signings of the last 10 years in terms of value for money. A quick word on those teams that we haven't yet mentioned, just quickly from both of you. Norwich, recent run of poor form, Matt. I know you love talking about them. Can they turn it round?
Yeah, I mean, they can. I mean, I think they've got a great coach in Chris Hughton. I think of that group in the middle of the table, they are probably the most vulnerable in getting sucked in. There's always one that comes from the middle of the pack that has a poor end to the season and falls away. And it looks like being them simply because they, again, don't score enough goals. At the moment, they're trying to scrap out matches. They're trying to be defensive. They're trying to be organised. Wonder whether Becchio might be that man that comes into the team and does that. Grant Holt needs to find form. But up top is a worry. And if you're not scoring goals, you're not winning enough matches. So I think that of that middle group, they're the most vulnerable to getting sucked into the relegation fight.
Yeah, they're on 29 points. So too are Sunderland and Fulham as well. Sunderland are an odd team, aren't they, Ian? I mean, 2 wins lifted them out of danger and then a draw and 2 defeats. And I'm not suggesting they're going to get relegated, but they struggle for form, don't they? Consistency.
If I'm looking at the squad and if I'm Martin O'Neill, I'd have concerns about it in one area. Defensively, I think they've got enough going forward to keep them in the league. But the other end, I think that needs real addressing in the summer. If they don't, they'll find themselves still in the battle next year. They just haven't got, one, enough creativity and two, enough defensive nous to keep them in the division year after year unless they address that.
I mentioned Fulham on 29, Matt. Again, not a scintillating season, but they should be okay.
Yeah, I think so. Home form, crucial to them. They're not perhaps the best travellers. They've got the quality of Berbatov up top, Brian Ruiz as well, Roddy Jaeger. They've got options in the forward positions, so I think they'll be absolutely fine.
And Ian, West Ham, a club that's nowhere near close to your heart, of course, 30 points. A few people have said to me they think West Ham could be in danger. The 30 points, they should, again, not scintillating, but a first team back, and they should be all right.
Yeah, I think they should be all right. I also think that Sam deserves a bit of credit. When you look at their back four, how they've done where they are, I think is remarkable, because I don't think that's the strongest defensive unit ever. Winston Reid's done great. Tompkins is developing, with the Nolan, with Andy Carroll, with Joe Cole, Matt Taylor, Vaz Taylor. You think there's enough. And certainly I don't think they're in trouble. But he'll want to finish in the top half. I'm not sure they've got enough to do that.
And finally, West Brom and Stoke, Matt, if you just sum up. I'm sorry if you're a fan of West Brom or Stoke. We've covered you plenty in recent weeks. We're not dismissing you. But again, they both look resolutely mid-table, don't they?
Yeah, they do. West Brom, I think, have been exceptional this season. They went through a period missing Claudio Jakob and Yusuf Malumbu in midfield. They've returned and they look stronger for it. Stoke, so organised, good at set pieces. Tony Pulis, again, perhaps doesn't get the credit that he deserves for what he's achieved at that football club. And there's been one or two murmurings about his position, actually, which surprises me immensely. But the two of them will be absolutely fine and have had very good seasons again.
And I have a rather stentorian set of questions to ask you, and I just want quick answers, just the answer, and you don't need to give the justification of your predictions for the rest of the season. Ian, I'm going to go you first. Champions?
Man U.
Matt?
Man United.
And Matt, you can go first with your top four, and your top four in order.
Man United, Man City, Spurs, Chelsea.
Go along with that, Ian?
I would go along with that.
OK, well, that makes it nice and easy. What about the bottom three for both of you? Slightly tricky.
QPR, Reading and Aston Villa.
Oh, Aston Villa to be relegated. We'll talk later about Reading. What about you, Matt?
I'm going to go QPR, Wigan and Villa.
OK, so Matt wins the prize then for keeping Reading in the top flight, which is well done to him. Top scorer, Ian. Robin van Persie leads the way with 19 at the moment. Anyone going to catch him?
No.
So RVP for you, and Matt?
RVP for me.
OK, this is proving very, very easy. What about player of the season? Not who's going to win it, but who you think should win it. Who would you go? Matt, you first of all.
I'll give you a top six. Mata, Van Persie, Gareth Bale, Luis Suarez, Zabaleta, Michu.
Matt's given us the top six, which isn't what I asked for, Ian. So you're going to give us your player of the season?
Quite often I pick Matt in the team and he never gives me what he asked for either. So I think Robin van Persie, because he's the game changer. He's wrestled the title, will wrestle the title back to the Red Half of Manchester.
Thought you were going to say Johan Kabay there, but there you go. Quick look at some of this weekend's Barclays Premier League fixtures. Which one stand out for you first of all, Matt?
Sunday, Man City v Chelsea. I think that's the biggest draw this weekend. I actually fancy the home team. I think they'll beat Chelsea this weekend.
And Ian, what about you? What jumps out at you? It's a big game at the bottom, Reading, Wigan at the Medeski, isn't it?
That's a huge game. I think Reading have got a couple of very important fixtures at home. I think I can't look past what was an iconic derby for me is West Ham Tottenham on Monday. So I see that. And the other one is a very interesting one. I think Newcastle Southampton might be an interesting game.
Swansea and Liverpool, of course, not playing this weekend due to Swansea's participation in the League Cup final on Sunday against Bradford City. Swansea are a much-loved club as well, but we know the result everyone would want. But what about your predictions, Matt? Can Bradford, they've put out so many. Can they do it again?
Hard to write them off when they've beaten three Barclays Premier League teams, Arsenal, Aston Villa, of course, and Wigan. But I am going to write them off and say that Swansea will be too strong.
Ian, is the ultimate romance going to happen?
I just think there's a little more of a twist now with the injury to Chico Flores. I think that's a big blow for Swansea, but I agree with Matt. I think there's too much quality and a bit too much pace in wide areas for Swansea not to come out on top.
And there's just time to tell you about some new Barclays Team Talk videos this week, starting with legendary Arsenal striker Ian Wright meeting Brit Awards nominee Plan B on our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/Barclays Football TV. This week, we're also going behind the scenes at Man United and Fulham's training grounds to meet Chris Smalling, Anders Lindegaard and Martin Jol, amongst others. And keep checking our Barclays Football Facebook channel for your chance to ask questions to the Barclays Premier League stars. That's just about it for this week. My thanks to Ian and Matt for their company, particularly Matt for that relegation prediction. And don't forget to have a go at this week's trivia teaser. 15 years ago, Stoke striker Michael Owen scored his first of 8 Barclays Premier League hat-tricks in his career so far in a 3-3 draw at Sheffield Wednesday. Can you name the 3 other players to have scored 8 or more hat-tricks in the Barclays Premier League? If you think you know the answer, log on to the Barclays Football Facebook page. Tell us what you think. We will, of course, read out the correct answers in next week's programme. Remember, you can also follow us throughout the week on Twitter. @BarclaysFooty is the address for all the latest Barclays Premier League news. We'll be back next week to review all the weekend's action, including a relegation 6-pointer between Reading and Wigan and the very small matter of Man City against Chelsea at the Etihad. But until then, from Matt Holland, from Ian Dowie and from myself, Dave Farrar, goodbye.
You've been listening to the official podcast of the Barclays Premier League, brought to you by Barclays.